Welcome to the Six Figure Business Mastery Podcast, where every week, Kirsten and Jeannie dive into the essential topics to fuel your business growth. From copywriting to course creation, mindset to video marketing, they've got you covered. Tune in for expert guest interviews on all things marketing and business, and learn how to work on your business, not just in it. So, get ready to unlock your business potential and take it to the next level.
Hello and welcome everyone to our latest episode. We're very excited to have someone here all the way from Denver, Colorado. Her name is Abby Bradetich. Her company is Illuminescence Creations, and she's the founder and creative director. Her company is a design and social media agency. She specializes in branding, copy, web design, and social media for bold female founders. We love that. She originally got her design experience working on her college yearbook as editor-in-chief. I love that, which she turned into a freelance career, and then for 10 years before eventually creating her business today. So we are thrilled to have you. Welcome, Abby.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're talking about one of our favorite topics, marketing. We love all things marketing, and I know that you just have such a unique perspective. And one of the things I think you focus on is people showing up authentically as themselves in their content. We'd love to learn more about that and how you help those founders do that.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say that people come to me with that kind of question all the time. They're like, a lot of times if people, especially if they're rebranding, they come to me and they're kind of like, I don't feel like my business feels like me, and my online presence doesn't feel like me. And they're not sure like where the line is between what they want to share about like themselves personally, and then obviously like having a professional presence. And so everybody is unique, I would say, because some people are more comfortable sharing more things about themselves than other people. And so it's really about finding that unique recipe for each client and helping them find ways to bring more of themselves to the table, whether that's showing up in a new way, creating content only that they like rather than what everybody tells you to do. We're about like more like not following the rules a little bit. Like I want people to like obviously understand the strategy and what goes into effective marketing, but at the same time being able to do it their way and being able to enjoy showing up online and not have to feel like it's like such a, just a stress that a lot of people have. So it's really about allowing people to kind of peel back the layers of who they are a little bit more within their online presence. Because people, I find, especially women, which is who we work with, like they kind of put up these like protective walls around themselves in terms of like the way they think they should show up. And so we're all about kind of peeling those back and allowing people to shine a little bit more.
I love that. Yeah, that's one thing that we've struggled with a bit ourselves is, feeling comfortable and sharing, online, because we're all about business and about, helping people grow and teaching people. But some of the social platforms are social and they want to, know a little bit about you personally. So how do you kind of start with that with your clients?
A lot of times that comes down to brand voice. So we really kind of dig into our clients and the way they're showing up now versus like how they might talk, like in person. Like we really want people when they're landing on your social content or they're landing on their website to actually feel like you're talking to them rather than it being like this professional kind of stuffy copy. And then when they talk to you, like they feel like you're a totally different person, like you have all this energy and this like vibe that they get in person or even, virtually through meetings. And we want those little bits to come across in your copy, especially on your website, but also in your social presence, so that people feel like they already know you before actually talking to you, because that helps convert sales too. And so a lot of times we do start with brand voice, because that's typically where people, I find that they struggle, is like figuring out what parts of their like language can they bring into their copy. Like people, everybody talks different, everybody has their own like sayings or unique ways of saying things, and we like to kind of analyze that and take that from like the way they talk to us in our meetings and the questionnaires they fill out, and we get really specific in those details. And I find that kind of helps open up the possibilities for them to see what's actually possible for themselves. Because a lot of times, yeah, like I said, people kind of show up the way they think they should rather than like how they actually want to. And a lot of that does come down to voice. One thing I love to have people do is like read their own copy or read their own social content out loud and then hear it back. And that you can really be like, okay, that doesn't actually sound like me, you know, like that doesn't actually, like, that's not how I would normally say that. Like, maybe I'm gonna, you know, drop a cuss word in there, or maybe I'm gonna say it a little, like with a little, you know, saying or whatever that comes out naturally when they're talking. And so that is a really unique way of kind of like analyzing what you have and seeing where the discrepancies are between like what you're putting out versus how you actually show up.
Yeah, but it is about bringing who you are and your voice. And like Jeannie said, sometimes that's hard because we both communicate very differently. And so marrying those two voices. And I think we also, you know, we just came from a generation where we weren't necessarily living out loud all of the time. So just trying to figure out, you know, what we can do that feels natural for us. I think, because I do think that's the most important part, that it, like you said, it feels like you, it sounds like you.
Yeah.
Then when you were talking about, you know, the person gets on the call with you and it's not the same, you're different than your copy. It made me think about the real estate agents that have that 20-year-old picture. And then you meet them in person and you're like, have I got the right person here? So yeah, it's really important to show up, you know, for as who you are. I love that. So tell us a little bit more about what you do with your clients.
Our whole thing is about helping people with their online presence across the board. So our main focus obviously is brand copy and web design. We also offer social media services. And then for clients that have been with us a long time or have worked with us before, we do offer, you know, like smaller services of copywriting and graphic design and stuff like that to help them continue to keep up with a cohesive online presence that, again, feels authentic, showcases everything that they do, but also connects with their ideal client, because that's the next, like, after being authentic and showing up that way, like the next step that's hard for people is, you know, converting their ideal clients. And I find that that's typically because they know where their ideal clients are and they know where they want them to be, but they don't know how to explain that their offer, their service, or their business can be that transformation between those 2 points. And so that's a lot of the work we do, especially for copywriting for websites, but in terms of even being able to express that through design and even social media. Of course, you want to be able to like really clearly be able to explain that to people too in a way that's easily digestible, because nobody's going to sit there and, you know, like read a long post or anything anymore. Unfortunately, like you have to be able to effectively communicate it quickly. And so that I find is like one of the next big pieces that we work on with our clients, because that part, like you can know all the awesome stuff you do, but that doesn't mean you can communicate it effectively. And so that's kind of the next piece we work on, regardless of, you know, if it's for the website or social media.
And I love how you said where they are and where they want to be, because I think it's just natural for business owners to want to talk about all of, you know, all of the ways you do things and all of the benefits and all of, you know, the technical things, when the reality is you do have to spend time talking to them about where they are right now and then really where they want to go, and then connecting that, I guess, bridging that so that they see that you can take them there. So that's amazing that you help people construct that type of copy.
I really enjoy it. And because I just feel like people usually, they're a lot better about like saying it out loud to somebody else versus putting it into words and writing it down. And so that's kind of where we come in, is like, we just, you know, we hear all the amazing things that they do and then help them translate that into copy and social media content that actually expresses that properly, rather than it being just kind of like a word vomit onto people and they don't know exactly where to go. And I also find that people a lot of times focus a little too much on pain points and not necessarily as much on the end point. And so we want to really make sure that we're not like just making people feel bad about the pain points that they're already dealing with, like they already, you know, are struggling with that. So what you're wanting to do is draw a line, like you said, you know, like bridging that gap between the pain point and where they want to be. So I call that dream creation marketing. And that is where you're basically like, you're like acknowledging where they start, but you're telling them where you know that they want to be and how you can help them get there. And so that's the point that I like to emphasize for people, is like really focusing on where they want to go, because they already know where they are, you know, like, and you need to know their pain points, but you don't need to like create content about it all the time and like speak to them all the time. Like you need to acknowledge it, but then be like, okay, like we know you're here, but this is where we can take you. And again, bridging that gap, and that is your service or your business that takes them from one to the other. So it's a fun thing to do. I really enjoy this work.
Well, tell us, can you, without naming names, can you tell us with a client about a client that you worked with that you really enjoyed, and then seeing them have that aha moment when they realized how to, go from just the pain points to, to where they want to be at the end?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've worked with several people recently, even where they're like, most recently, I actually just posted this on my social media today. We just launched a brand and website for a coach who does like productivity coaching, wellness, like balancing success and well-being. And so she knew definitely like where her clients were, because she is targeting like highly ambitious, higher education women that are like, maybe they're going for their PhD or maybe they're not, but they're like wanting more balance in their life. And she was at that point, like she's gotten her PhD. She knew like all of the pain points they have been through because she experienced it herself, how much better she would have felt if she would have been able to, incorporate balance and more like well-being and all of that sort of stuff. So she knew like what she had experienced and where she wanted to go. And that was where we came in to then help her draw the line between what her services are, because she had like just like listed them. She was like, okay, this is the type of coaching I want to do, but then like we have to get into more detail, like, and explaining the actual like results of and like the feelings around what you can do by the end, because that is what she's going to be doing with her clients. But that's not like, if you can't communicate that, then people are just going to understand the 2 points and not necessarily the middle bit, which is actually where the magic happens.
It's really funny because, we have a YouTube channel and we host 2 podcasts, but I feel like where I am most clear about what we do in my verbiage is when I'm interviewed on other people's podcasts. It's so crazy, because they're asking the questions and I'm answering them. And it's really funny because I'm starting to learn that there's some ways that I say things that we're not necessarily using in our copy. And so going back and listening with Jeannie to those interviews and figuring out how we could bring it in, and would it sound enough like her, or how could we bridge it so it sounds like both of us? But yeah, I find that being a guest on podcasts has really helped me get more clarity around wording, which has been really fascinating because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, 100%. I find the same even just with clients and meetings. Like we have, whenever we kick off a project, like we have, like a long strategy meeting together where we're really diving into their vision for their company, what they're wanting to do. And like, even if, they've had a company that's been working for a while and they're just doing a rebrand, like we're still like the vision is really important, and then being able to effectively communicate that. And so like seeing them light up and like talk about it is one of the best parts of my job. And like, they don't like, but that doesn't always, like you said, come across in the actual copy and in the actual content. And that's where like the disconnect is. And I just think that there's so much power in having someone else almost even like reflect your ideas back to you, because you're not always like, people are stuck in their head. Like when you're a solo business owner, you're stuck in your head all day. Like it's so hard to kind of pull out those pieces that would be really effective, especially in marketing, and especially if it doesn't come to you naturally. And so having a sounding board actually being like back to you, like, oh, actually you could use that as a piece of content, or like this is something you just said that would work to help convert people, and having that, and people speaking it out loud. Again, that goes back to like that exercise I said. Like I feel like the more people can kind of speak things out loud, the more natural it will feel to them.
I love that.
You were also talked about before this, incorporating brand value into your online presence. How do you help people do that, or how can people do that?
The big things I love to do, because I personally like want to incorporate my brand values all throughout my business, and not just that, have that be something that's like listed on on my about page. Like I want it to be everywhere. And part of that I find is getting really specific even on your ideal client, because a lot of times your brand values should also be reflected in your ideal client, because that's when you're going to have the best relationships with clients and have do the most best work you can, have more fun with clients. Like really, that's where a lot of the magic happens, is when your values align with theirs. And so you want to be able to effectively communicate that. So a lot of that times, like I said, that does come down to ideal client. We'll even have people just like explicitly say these things online, you know, like on their social media, they'll be like, these are the types of people we want to work with. Like they're working toward this, or they value this, or they have, you know, this ambition. And that is like one kind of simple way you can incorporate it into even your content, is like being like explicitly saying it, basically. Like it's okay to like have that be out there. But when it comes to brand design, we do a lot of research around values and what those can look like aesthetically as well. You know, sometimes it comes down to color, sometimes it comes down to the actual like design of the page or the graphics or even their branding. And so we do research around that before diving into the actual design work, because we work with a lot of people that like community building is really important, or inclusivity is really important, and that sort of stuff. And so it's, for us, that definitely goes into design, the ideal client, and also copy, because we want everyone to feel, you know, if inclusivity is your value, then you want everybody to feel comfortable reading your copy, as long as it like aligns with your ideal client, of course. But like you want to make sure that what you're putting out in the world aligns with that. So we're always checking back in with the brand values to make sure that what we're creating aligns with that.
I love that. Also have trouble with our branding, wording, if you will, on our website. How do you start and help people kind of develop? Because we've heard, oh, you should be, you know, it should be a storytelling thing, or it should be, you know, your 0 to hero, or it should just feature what you want people to do next. You know, how do you kind of position that with your clients?
Storytelling is a powerful thing, but you have to use it in an effective way. Like I think if you're just, you know, telling stories, then people get lost in them. Like you want to be guiding them. Typically we have like, you know, like endpoints throughout the website, like where we want people to go. And so that's kind of what we map out first in terms of where we're taking them. And then we use just small sections of copy. Like we're not, you know, we want each section to kind of stand on its own and not have to rely on other pieces of the website for people to get a feel for your voice and your story and what you can do for them. And so that sort of is where we are. A lot of times for me, especially when I work with clients that have websites that, you know, have been around a while and they have a lot of copy, a lot of it comes down to slashing through the copy. Like a lot of times there's too much there. And so really it's about taking like the, you know, the special nuggets of actual like magic that you're creating, and then just creating a story around that. So kind of like, again, having these endpoints and really have it taking them through that journey, but again, making sure that it can kind of stand alone on its own. So there's, yeah, different pieces to that. And yeah, like I said, a lot of times it comes down to just kind of cutting through the noise and helping people focus on what they really want to be expressing.
That's fantastic. So if someone wants to work with you, how can they reach out to you?
Right now, Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. We are redesigning our website right now. It's about to launch very soon. So that will be out there soon, but you'll see all of that on Instagram as well. Yeah, we just rebranded in the fall, and it's taken me a while to get our website redone as well, because, you know, as a service provider, my clients always come first. So sometimes that stuff has to sit in the background. But yeah, the Instagram is the easiest way. You can schedule a call with us. We have an inquiry form, all that kind of stuff. Brand and copy and web design projects we're booking. Right now we're booking for summer. We have July and August dates, I believe, open right now still. And then social media, we provide VIP days for people that just need like a revamp to really get their social media working and then be able to continue it on their own. Also offer social media management. Our availability for that is a little more limited. Now we have one spot open, so that one is a little bit less of an option, but it's still there for people. And then yeah, we have some fun offers and projects coming up this year that we're excited to share too.
Yay.
Is
So
so
what is your
amazing.
Instagram profile address?
Illuminescence Creations.
Really? You got the whole thing on there?
I did.
This has been amazing. I always love talking about branding and your enthusiasm and your passion, and you can just see how much you love what you do. And I think that's the magic sauce when you own a business, is to be passionate about how you get to help people. And I can see that that's very clear with you, Abby.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's my favorite thing. And I love helping people then express what they love to do also.
Wonderful. Well, Abby, we appreciate you coming and joining us today and educating our listeners on how they can better brand their business, some things that they need to think about when they're thinking about their copy and how they can show up authentically online. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Six Figure Business Mastery Podcast. If you enjoyed listening to this episode and you are ready to leverage video marketing on all online platforms, or maybe even start your own video podcast, then you need to check out the Done For You and Done With You program at themarketingvaadvantage.com and take your business to the next level.